Okay, young product builders, what you're going to do is first thing is to come up with all your material cost. So at $1.60 per unit, my product, the cat that I made, was made out of 10 cents, 50 cents, and $1, and I added those up and it came up to $1.60 for my materials. So when I make 0, I don't use any materials, so it's $0. When I make 1, I multiply that times my cost of $1.60, and it's $1.60 in materials. If I make 2 quantity, that's Q in the number. So if I make 2 quantity, I'm going to multiply that by 160 and get $3.20, and 3 times 160 for $4.80, and on down and on down. The last one, if I were to make 6 units at $1.60 each for materials, it would be a cost of $9.60. On the other hand, what I have are fixed costs. So my fixed costs are for labor and for rent, insurance, and taxes. This triple net is what we pass on to our customer because our landlord passes that on to us. So I'm going to charge you $5 for your desk, $3 for insurance, $2 for taxes. That comes up to a total of $10 for fixed cost. Same thing with labor. Entrepreneurship, you get $5 for your idea, $3 for labor, $2 for marketing. If I add all these up, they equal to $10 as well. So no matter how many units I produce, I'm always going to have these overhead or fixed costs of $10 for each. So back to my table, I'm going to have a fixed cost of $10 and $10 if I make 0 units. So no matter what, I got to spend $20 just to be in business. So if I were to make 1 unit, now I have variable costs that are added in as well. After I take my fixed cost and fixed labor and add $10 for all my units of production, 0 through 6 in both of these columns, now I'm ready to add up my total cost. So your total cost is going to include variable costs. So variable costs are things that increase as production increases. So if I'm making more units, I'm going to have more electricity plus water for utilities. I'm going to have more things delivered. I'm going to have more production supplies like computer, printer, things that I need to produce with. I'll have to pay credit card fees. And these are associated with each transaction that I make. So, a $50,000 a month business, on that revenue of credit card fees, they might pay $5,000 in credit card fees. And then the more I make, the more mess I'm going to have, the more wear and tear on my machines. So I'm going to have maintenance. So all these things are going to increase with quantity increase. That's why my variable costs, I set these for you, go from 10 to 11 to 13 to 16 and on down to 25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add up 10 plus my $1.60 plus 10 plus 10 equals to $31.60. That's what happens when I produce a quantity of 1. Now I'm going to do this all the way down through 6 for each of my columns. So this would be 11 plus 320 plus 10 plus 10 equals 34.20. I'm going to do that when I produce 2. If I skip down to 6, it's the same thing. $25 in variable cost plus $9.60 plus 10 fixed cost. And remember, my material cost for 6 units is multiplied times $1.60 per unit. That's per each cat that I produce. So that's going to be a total of $54.60. Now, once I have all my total costs done, now I'm going to analyze and add up my marginal cost. So my marginal cost is the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. So the triangle means change. So what that means is my change in total cost is what it costs me from one unit to the next. So when I go from making 0 at a total cost of 20 to making 1 unit at a total cost of $31.60, that change is the difference between these two. So that means I'm going to take $31.60 and subtract 20, and that's going to equal $11.60 is going to be my marginal cost. Let me zoom in and focus for you. Maybe that's a little bit better. So now my marginal cost is that decision I'm going to make at the margin of when my marginal cost equals my marginal revenue. So I'll scoot this over. Now that we have all of our total costs done, we can do this for each unit produced for my marginal cost. So now if I produce 2 units, I'm going to go from a cost of $31.60 to a cost of $34.20. So I'm going to subtract $31.60 from $34.20. That's going to equal $2.60. And so that's my marginal cost. The change in quantity is going from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. So the change is actually equal to 1. And so if we divide 1160 by 1, it's just going to be any number divided by 1 is itself. So all these are just going to be consistently their own number. So there's not that much difference. Made it kind of simple. Okay. So I'm going to do this all the way down. So even on the last one, when I go from producing 5 units to 6 units, my change is going to be 5460 minus 48, which is 660. So now that I have all my marginal costs done, so pause the video and take a minute to do all those. Now we're going to make sales. So this is going to be our revenue. So the sale price is $30 for one, $31 for two, and on down. You're increasing your price as you increase your supply. So now for the quantity, I'm going to multiply 30 by 1, $31 by 2 units, $32 by 3 units, and on down. 34 times 5, 35 times 6. And that's going to equal my total revenues. So my revenues are going to be 30, 62, 96, 132, 170, and 210. So because I'm selling bigger quantities, I'm going to have bigger revenues. So now I need to figure out what is my marginal revenue. So pause the video, make sure you get all these done. And now I don't have a total revenue when I produce 0 and sell 0 items. So that's not available in A, or you can just mark through it or put 0, whatever you want. So these are all 0 because I didn't make any units, right? So now, to find my marginal revenue, I'm going to take the change in total revenue and divide it by the change in quantity. And once again, remember our quantity is only 1, so whatever we come up with is just going to be that number. So when I go from 0 to 30, divided by 1, my marginal revenue is $30. And then when I go from 30 to 62, my marginal revenue is 32. When I go from 96, from producing 2 items to 3, it jumps from 62 to 96, which is 34, and on down and on down. You can see the pattern of mine. It just goes up by $2 each time. So if you need to, pause the video, calculate all of your marginal revenues by taking your change in total revenue divided by your change in quantity. After you come up with all of these, now it's time to calculate profit. So your profit is going to be your total revenue minus your total cost. So however much I have in sales, right here I have $30 for selling one, and my total cost of making one is $31.60. Uh-oh, that's not good. I lost money on my first sale of 1 unit. I'm negative $1.60. Okay, well, now let's see what it takes. What happens when we sell 2 at $31 and we bring in $62 of revenue. So let's take our total cost of $62 and subtract our total cost for making 2 items to $34.20. So now we have a profit of $27.80. So I'm going to do that all the way down. Is total revenue 96 minus $37.80, 132 minus $42.40, and on down all the way to making 6 units, bringing in $210 revenue at a total cost of $54.60. So now my profit is $155.40. So pause the video, get all that column done. Now let's move on to our summary. So the cost of my product was $1.60. Now I need to find where marginal revenue is equal or greater than marginal cost, and that's where we're going to know where we should start producing. So now I have marginal revenue is equal than or greater than marginal cost. Well, at 30, marginal revenue is not exceeding $31.60. My marginal revenue of 32. So at no point does our marginal revenue exceed our marginal cost. It's not equal to or greater than at any one point. However, we are profitable. So our profit maximizing quantity, we make the most profit at 6 units of $155. The total revenue at 6 is $210, and our profit maximizing is 155. Oh, sorry. So the profit maximizing is at 6 units, where we make $210 of revenue, and we have a profit maximization of 155.40. Our break-even point is at 2. So a break-even point is when do we not lose money? When do we make enough money, enough revenue to be operational? Well, if we make 1 unit, we're losing $1.60. If we make 2 units, we're making $27.80. So are we covering our total costs? Yeah, we are, because that $62 will cover our total cost of operating. So at 2 units, we are going to be breaking even or better. Once you finish with all this table, I want you to take a picture of your product and your company name and logo and submit it to the assignment on Canvas. I'll scoot this back one more time for you to look.